Idaho has lots of fish, but not all of them are native. Warm water fish like bass, crappie, and catfish are what scientists call exotic species. Those are fish that were introduced into Idaho from other places. But native fish were always a part of Idaho's landscape. They depend on the 4 C's: cold, clear, connected, and complex waters. Some Idaho native fish are doing just fine, but others are struggling for survival. Loss of habitat, drought cycles, and competition from non-native fish, those exotics, all can threaten Idaho's native fish. The burbot is probably one of the homeliest native fish in Idaho. It lives in Idaho's panhandle in the Kootenai River, and its eel-like body makes it easy to identify. Second place in the beauty contest would probably be awarded to the largest fish in North America, the white sturgeon. Sturgeon can live over 100 years and grow in excess of 1,500 pounds.
Whoa, that's huge!
Remember that part about cold, clear, connected waters? Well, when the dams went in on the Snake and Columbia rivers, the sturgeon were stuck too. Caught between large walls of concrete, they are destined to live in isolated pockets, no longer free to migrate or travel the length of the Columbia River system. Today, fishing for sturgeon means catch and release only.
Bye, fishy!
Migration is an important part of almost every native fish's life cycle. Usually fish, like this kokanee, migrate to spawn. That means to lay eggs. Kokanee turn bright red in the fall when they get the urge to reproduce. However, when that cycle is interrupted by dams, or when their migration route or spawning habitat is damaged, it will affect the whole population. Fishing for Idaho natives means you need to know how to identify the fish. This boy's caught himself a whole stringer of mountain whitefish.
That's a lot of whitefish. Yeah, it is.
Most of Idaho's other native species fall into the trout category. Rainbows are easy to recognize by their colorful sides. The West Slope cutthroat, Idaho state fish, has a bright red slash across its throat. And if you catch a bull trout like this, you need to release it immediately, unharmed, because like Idaho's wild salmon and steelhead, they're listed as a fish threatened with extinction.
Whoa, why aren't we catching these?
Because there's not very many of them left in this river. Do you know what we call a species when their populations get extremely low?
You mean when there's too few of them? Endangered?
That's right. This is a Chinook salmon, and they're endangered here. When this fish was just a kid like you, it lived in the stream and was only this long. Then it swam all the way to the ocean.
All the way to the ocean? How far is that?
900 miles.
That's right. It would be like driving from Chicago to New Orleans or from Seattle to San Francisco. Do you think you could swim that far?
No way! Whoa, that was cool!
And after about 3 years, they swim all the way back, here to the same stream where they started as eggs.
How did they find their way home?
In fact, they smell their way back.
Come on, how do you know that?
Research! We study salmon so we can make good decisions on how to manage them to get more fish back. Let me show you some of the research we're doing right here. Here's one thing we do with these salmon. We check to see if they have a passive integrated transponder, or pit tag.
A what?
A pit tag. Remember how I told you about the salmon starting here as little kids? Well, we actually call them smolts. A tiny computer chip is inserted under their skin. With that computer chip, we can determine what the journey to and from the ocean was like and what may have happened to them along the way.
So does this fish have a pit tag?
Let's check. Yep. Okay, let's put him back into the river.
Will all this research save salmon from being endangered?
We don't know. There are a lot of other factors involved. But without research, we wouldn't begin to know how to save the salmon. One thing we do know is that this river has the carrying capacity to hold a lot more of these fish. Well, back to work for me.
Goodbye, Mr. Patterson. Thank you.